Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Laura Train Mama. Today we are having a look at this story called Buzz Buzz. It's part of the Thomas the Tank Engine book club, and it's actually two stories in one, which is not clear from the front cover, but it is two stories in one. So we will be reading Buzz Buzz and a second story called Wrong Road. I hope you enjoy. Buzz Buzz. BoCo reached the big station and arranged his trucks. Then he went to the shed and asked politely if he could come in. Duck was not pleased to see a diesel, but presently, when he found that BoCo knew Edward, he became more friendly. And by the time BoCo had told him about Bill and Ben, they were laughing together like old friends. "Have they ever played tricks on you?" asked BoCo. "Goodness me, yes," chuckled Duck. "Edward is the only one who can keep them in order." "You know," went on Duck, "I sometimes call them the bees." "A good name," chuckled BoCo. "They're terrors when they start buzzing round." Just then James bustled in. "What's that, Duck? Are you terrified of bees? They're only insects after all, so don't let that buzzbox diesel tell you different." "His name is BoCo, and he didn't... I wouldn't care," interrupted James, "if hundreds were swarming round. I'd just blow smoke and make them buzz off." "Buzz, buzz, buzz," retorted Duck. James retired into a huff. James was to pull the express next morning, and when Duck brought his coaches, the platform was crowded. "Mind your backs! Mind your backs!" Two porters were taking a loaded trolley to the front van. Fred drove, while Bert walked behind. "Careful, Fred, careful," warned Bert, but Fred was in a hurry and didn't listen. Suddenly an old lady appeared in front. Fred stopped dead, but the luggage slid forward and burst the lid of a large white wooden box. Some bees flew out and, just as James came backing down, they began to explore the station. Someone shouted a warning. The platform cleared like magic. The bees were too sleepy to be cross. They found the empty station cold. James's fireman was trying to couple the train. They buzzed round him hopefully. They wanted him to mend their hive. Then they could go back to be warm again. But the fireman didn't understand. He thought that they would sting him. He gave a yell, ran back to the cab and crouched with his jacket over his head. The driver didn't understand either. He swatted at the bees with a shovel. The bees, disappointed, turned their attention to James. James's boiler was nice and warm. The bees swarmed round it happily. Buzz off, he hissed. He made smoke, but the wind blew it away, and the bees stayed. At last, one settled on his hot smoke box. It burnt its feet. The bee thought James had stung it on purpose. It stung James back, right on the nose. "Eee!" whistled James. He had had enough. So had his driver and fireman. They started without waiting for the guard's whistle. They didn't notice till too late that they'd left their train behind. In the end, it was BoCo who pulled the express. He was worried at first about leaving his trucks, but Duck promised to look after them, and so it was arranged. He managed to gain back some of the lost time, and the Fat Controller was pleased with him. No one seemed to notice when James came back to the shed. They were talking about a new kind of beehive on wheels. It was red, they said. Then they all said buzz, buzz, buzz and laughed a lot. James thought that for big mainline engines, they were being very silly. Wrong road. Thomas's branch line is important, and so is Edward's. They both bring in valuable traffic, but their track and bridges are not so strong as those on the main. This is why the Fat Controller does not allow the heavier mainline engines such as Gordon and Henry to run on them. If, however, you had heard Gordon talking to Edward a short while ago, you would have thought that the Fat Controller had forbidden him to run on the branch lines for quite another reason. It's not fair, grumbled Gordon. What isn't fair? Asked Edward. Letting branch line diesels pull mainline trains. Never mind, Gordon. I'm sure BoCo will let you pull his trucks sometimes. That would make it quite fair. Gordon spluttered furiously. I won't pull BoCo's dirty trucks. I won't run on branch lines. Why not? It would be a nice change. The Fat Controller would never approve, said Gordon loftily. Branch lines are vulgar. He puffed away in a dignified manner. Edward chuckled and followed him to the station. Gordon, his driver, and his fireman all say it was the lady's fault. She wore a green floppy hat and was saying goodbye to a friend, sitting in the coach nearest the guard's van. It was almost time to start. The fireman looked back. He was new to the job. He couldn't see the guard, but he did see something green waving. He thought it was the flag. Right away, mate, he called. But the guard had not waved his flag. When Gordon started, he left some luggage, several indignant passengers, and the guard all standing on the platform. Every evening, 2 fast trains leave the big station within 5 minutes. The 6:25 is Gordon's for the main line. Edward's, at 6:30, runs along the branch. By the time Gordon had been brought back, Edward's train was overdue. You've missed your path, Gordon, said the Fat Controller crossly. Now we must clear Edward's train before you can start. This should have put everything right with the least possible trouble, but the control at the big station made things worse. They forgot to warn the signalman at Edward's Junction about the change of plan. It was dark by the time the trains reached the junction, and you can guess what happened. Edward went through on the main, while Gordon was switched to the branch. It took the Fat Controller several hours to sort out the tangle and pacify the passengers. In the end, Gordon was left with his fire drawn, cold and cross on one of Edward's sidings. Bill and Ben peeped into the yard next morning. They wondered if BoCo had bought them some trucks. There were no trucks, but they didn't mind that. Teasing Gordon, they thought, would be much better fun. What's that? Asked Bill loudly. Shh, whispered Ben. It's Gordon. It looks like Gordon, but it can't be. Gordon never comes on branch lines. He thinks them vulgar. Gordon pretended he hadn't heard. If it isn't Gordon, said Ben, it's just a pile of old iron, which we'd better take to the scrapyard. Oh, Bill, this lot's useless for scrap. We'll take it to the harbour and dump it into the sea. Gordon was alarmed. I am Gordon. Stop, stop. The twins paid no attention. Gordon shut his eyes and prepared for the worst. The twins argued loudly and long. Bill favoured the scrapyard, while Ben said that cutting up in such places is something cruel. It would be kinder, he urged, to give these remains a quick end in the sea. Besides, he went on, they would make a lovely splash. Gordon could not view either prospect with any enthusiasm. Up to that time, he had disapproved of diesels. They were, he considered, ugly, smelly, and noisy. When he opened his eyes and saw BoCo coming into the yard, he thought him the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. BoCo, my dear engine, he gasped. Save me. BoCo quickly sized up the situation and sent Bill and Ben about their business. They were cheeky at first, but BoCo threatened to take away the trucks of the coal he had brought for them. That made them behave at once. Gordon thought he was wonderful. Those little demons, he said. How do you do it? Ah, well, said BoCo, it's just a knack. Gordon thinks to this day that BoCo saved his life. But we know that the twins were only teasing, don't we? That brings us to the end of the story, Buzz Buzz. I hope that you enjoyed listening along with me, and if you did, please don't forget to like the video and check your subscribe to the channel. We have lots more Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends books coming, and I would hate for you to miss out. Have a great day.